Laura, would you mind just testing your audio for us?
Good morning, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to remind you that council meetings are available live through Zoom, and recordings may be posted online on County of Huron's YouTube channel. You may be seen and or heard as part of these broadcasts, and your name, comments, and or presentation materials will become part of the public record. And with that, I'd like to call this meeting to order. And starting off with Warden's remarks, just want to make you aware that Maitland Valley Conservation Authority had their annual meeting last week, and I think the highlight of that was that Phil Beard was recognized with 45 years of service with Maitland Valley. So that's quite a milestone, and I've always appreciated Phil and his role there, and it was just good to see that kind of service recognized. So with that, I'm going to move on to the approval of our agenda. If there's a mover and a seconder for that, so Councillor Becker, seconded by Councillor Finch. Those in favor? And that is carried. Is there any pecuniary interest that needs to be declared at this time? And seeing none, then we'll move on to minutes. Is there any errors or omissions? We have 3 sets of minutes there to address. And if not, I'd be looking for a mover and a seconder. So past Warden McNeil would put forward the motion, and Councillor McClellan would second that. Those in favor? And that is carried. And under delegations, we have the Huron Soil and Crop Improvement Association here to give us their annual report this morning. And Rick Kustra and Wim Fettis are going to be joining us for that. So come on up to the podium, and we look forward to your presentation. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry. Warden Haver, Huron County Council. My name is Wim Fettis. I am the president of Huron Soil and Crop. Huron Soil and Crop would like to thank Huron County Council for the opportunity to share some information about last year's crop and learning at Huron View Demo Farm. We have made some changes in the way of farming over the years at Huron View, as we do strip till, no-till practices in combination with cover crops. Our goal is to show the farmers in Huron County how you can farm in a way that preserves good soil health, clean water, no soil erosion, and no water runoff without compromising any yield losses. So if we can go to the next slide. With that all being said, we planted soybeans the first week of June, green, into a zero rye cover crop at Huron View last year. That cover crop got broadcasted after corn harvest in 2023. We had a nice stand of cereal rye in the spring before planting. The ground was nice and mellow, but we had a wet spring and planting conditions were not optimal. The soybeans got planted the first week of June. The emergence was okay, but not as great as we would like to see. The reason was that after planting, it stopped raining. And the ground got hard, and especially on the eroded knolls. As you can see on the slide, we ended up with a 47 bushel per acre yield. For some of us, there was a little disappointment because some yields were better too, but we think we were missing too many plants because of the dry weather after planting. Also, planting a little earlier would have probably helped us getting a better emergence, but with a spring like that, it's always tricky to get crops in on time and at the right conditions. It is still a learning curve, and we are also still improving organic matter, soil health on a Huron View demo farm. You cannot change things like that overnight. And right now I'd like to introduce Rick Kutstra. Rick, he's our demo farm manager. for Huron View, and Rick is gonna tell you some things he had to deal with last year. Rick?
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Warden Heffer and Huron County Council. Thanks for having us in today. We certainly appreciate it, and certainly appreciate the opportunity to farm Huron View. It's been a great run. I think I've been there for 5 years and steady improvement. So it's been great. Today we're a little short of people. Normally we come with Dave Pullen and Mary Valey's, but so it's just me and Wim today. But this summer we'll be having events, and I would invite each and every one of you to come out for a tour. So if you want to go back to the first slide, we're going to overlap a little bit here. Yeah. So that picture is a droned cover crop, and we put that in last fall into standing soybeans. So that's gone on at about 50 pounds an acre. And we're quite excited to see how this is going to work out. That's some new technology that we're going to try. Hopefully farmers do catch on to this in time, but it really worked well. And that's, you can see from the picture, a pretty nice looking crop for just only 50 pounds. So we'll go to the next one. So I know we had a real struggle in the spring, but if you look at those beans late in the summer, it's hard to say that there was a problem. Beans are the greatest liars. You think you got a great yield and you don't, and then when you're betting on a poor yield, they're actually a little bit surprised. 47 bushel at Huron View is pretty good. I know we're in the 50s. I farm in the neighborhood. We did get past 60 on some of our better land, but we also were in the 50s. So this is actually, we're pretty pleased. Next. So this year, we had over 500 people tour through Huron View, and that was told to me late in the year. I had no idea we had that many people come through. Some of that includes you guys that were there, but for the bulk of it, it was students. We brought in busloads from Wingham High School, Clinton High School, and one other school, I think St. Anne's maybe, and toured them through there. And you can see some of the pictures, and these students were very interested. So since then, the ensemble has gone and made some videos, and those videos will be going to the high schools. So, if you're going to teach no-till and strip-till and cover crops, don't be offended, but this room's too far gone, okay? Like, we're getting too old to change. So you change the young people. That's where you're going to plant that seed. And there's some really awesome videos coming out, so I hope you guys can see those at some point. Next. Oh, go back one. Sorry, I missed a point. So as well as our local students, we brought in the University of Guelph. And now those folks are actually getting into master's degrees based on what we're learning at Huron View. So the last line was a bit confusing for me, and maybe you folks are a little better at English, but when they say the lower field more likely to have a perched water table, it's the way these things work is they're layered in the ground, and different aggregates will allow different water, different speeds, different things to happen. So at Huron View, we've got kind of like a lot going on. There's not all just one table. There's various tables with different levels. So they monitor that. And we're trying to learn from that to see what kind of tile system works the best. And it's really involved. So that's that slide. Next. As Wim said, we plant green. And it starts off, you think, well, that's crazy. We can't plant into this. It looks like a hayfield. But once you do this a few times, it's like old hat. It works great. So I don't have any wind erosion. I don't have any, very little soil loss. And you can see that that tractor and planter there is going at about 5.5 miles an hour and there's no dust. Well, the dust is your best topsoil. You let it leave, it goes to your neighbor, it don't come back. You know, he's not going to bring it back to you. So we want to keep our topsoil. We use, again, that slide says most of it, we use strip tillage. Or this is our latest project, which is the oats and rye. So we want rye into corn stalks and we want oats into standing beans to give a cover crop in the springtime to plant into. And so when the spring thaw comes like it is, that we would have less runoff. We would hold it. That slide says it all. We're going to be taking this project to a different level this year. We have some funding. We'd probably ask county council to watch this to see that we do have enough, but we would like to start managing some of the storm water in through the land and start in on our subsurface irrigation, which is, Susan, I don't have a lot of time, so that's like a 20-minute conversation. So if you have questions. Okay, thank you. So we can discuss that at a later time. It's really exciting and it's cutting edge. It's techy. Again, thank you very much to each and every one of you for your help and contributions to this project. It's our county. It's Huron County, and despite our problems at the U.S. border these days, I'm pretty proud of Huron County. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick and Wim, for the presentation. And I'm going to open it up for council if there's any questions or comments. Councillor Basnet.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Warden. Rick, you mentioned about 3 high schools being on location to have a look at things and how things operate there. Is there a plan for inviting the other high schools in Huron County to possibly be on site as well?
Yes, sir. We invited everybody.
Excellent.
Just who can come and who.
Yeah, busing costs a lot of money these
Yeah.
days, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You have to get the right teacher to organize it.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't have a class, an environmental class, you know, they just kind of go, well, whatever. But
Okay.
So-
I'll reach out to our local high school principal
do.
here in town and see if we can get some students there. Thank you for that.
please do. Yeah.
Okay. Past Warden McNeil.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden, and through you to Rick and Wim. I think it's very, very important to recognize the variety of ways that Huron County is a leader. And this demonstration farm is yet another way. The innovation that you are incorporating is not only for Huron County, it's far more reaching than that. And personally, thank you very much for what you're doing in this leadership of Huron County.
Thank you.
Mr. Warden.
Past Warden Ginn.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Warden. Yeah, I think we're into our 11th year. I remember when it was Joe Stuffler as warden came with the idea, and I thought it was a good idea at the time, and I continue to think that. But one of the problems I keep hearing in cropping, and I just don't know if Soil and Crop has any insight into it, but it's just the residue from corn and then trying to plant soybeans into it, no-till the next year, and just there's almost too much residue anymore. And have you done any work on that at all, or any insights into that?
So if you have a lot of manure in your cropping cycle, it seems to be a whole lot less of an issue. If you're a straight cash crop, eventually the biologics of your soil are not as hungry. There's not as much of it. So to decay residue is harder. And we're growing 200 plus bushel corn crops these days with stalks that seem like they're bamboo. You know, it isn't like the 30 years ago corn that sort of fell apart. So farmers are struggling with some of this stuff in the no-till. So some are not using the drill anymore, and they're putting the row unit in between the corn stalks. And then the trash isn't such an issue. But So there's two things going on there. One is hybrids are different. I wouldn't say you want to blame anything else. That would be the number one. They're taller, they're bigger, there's more leaves on them, and they're hard as, bamboo. Yeah.
Okay, any other comments from council? Well, gentlemen, we appreciate the efforts you do in managing the demonstration farm and continue the good work. And we look forward to the new innovations you're going to try out and bring back to us.
Good.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to move on to council. Oh, yes, and our clerk would really like to have a motion to receive this report. So that's Councillor Dietrich and Councillor Basnet would second that. Those in favor, and that is carried. And we're going to move on to councillors' comments. Councillor Finch.
Yeah, thank you. And I've already spoken to our CEO about this topic. It actually comes up under 12.9 under the agenda for correspondence. It's in regards to transit, area transit for a region. South Huron has been benefiting from having Huron Shore Area Transit in our community, as have other communities benefited too. The challenge is that the funding is being cut now by the province. So what I'm suggesting is that we need to have a report come back as to what can be done, because I believe that transit like this should be uploaded to the province completely and have them responsible for it. Huron Shore Area Transit has increased ridership to over 25,000 boardings in 2024. And in a recent study, 97% of Canadians feel it's an essential service. So just looking to our CEO for comment as to what can be done.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Warden, staff would be happy to bring back a report for council if that is the wish of council.
Yeah, and if I may, just a comment on under 12.9 again, the author of that correspondence is Mac Voisin, very well-respected businessman, self-made. He's the creator of M&M Meats. He sees the value in it. And I'm sure Councillor Klopp can attest to his dedication to Huron County also. And there was another letter written by Rob Reed, who owns many McDonald's, that we received at South Huron Council a while ago. So the business community is very much interested in supporting this, but I think it needs to go above a lower tier, past the county and up to the province. So I would make a motion to have that done.
Need to read that if you have it scribed.
Can I suggest the Council of the County of Huron request staff prepare a report on public transportation initiatives in Huron County?
So moved.
So moved by Councillor Finch, seconded by Councillor Basnet. Those in favor? And that is carried. We have 5 items in our consent agenda this morning. Is there any specific item anybody wants to speak to? And if not, then I'd be looking for a motion to receive the consent agenda for information. So Councillor Harding and Councillor Anderson would second that. Those in favor? And that is carried. So under planning and development, we have Denise Van Amersfoort with us. She's available for questions on the county draft official plan amendment. So is there any questions for Denise on this? Seeing none, Denise. So if that's the case, then we'd be looking for a motion to receive this report as well. So that's Past Warden McClellan, seconded by Councillor Finch. Those in favor? And that is carried. And under cultural services, we're going to be looking at the Huron Tract Commemoration Project update, and that's going to be presented by Ali Brenner. And I'm going to introduce Ali for us. Ali started with the county in August of 2022 as a cultural development officer. She brings a background of over a decade of community arts programming experience to the county and is herself an accomplished artist. Ali has recently returned from a parental leave and is quickly getting up to speed on current projects and working on many program plans for 2025. So my pleasure to introduce Ali and welcome Ali. And Ali is here for questions if there's any questions on her report. Seeing none, and I'd be looking for a motion then to accept Ally's report. And that's Councillor Noel, seconded by Past Warden Ginn. Those in favor? And that is carried. We're making it really easy on staff so far this morning. Yeah, jinxing it, okay. Administration policies and other issues. What a great lead into that. Oh. Enterprise license agreement, and Mike is available for questions on this if there is any from council. Seeing none, then I'd be looking for direction on this from council. Past Warden Ginn, put forward the motion that's before us, seconded by Councillor Finch. Those in favor? And that is carried. And we're at the Minnesota Bridge Association funding presentation. And again, Mike is available for questions if there's any questions from council on this report. Councillor Heffer.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. After reading the report there, I'd just like to put this motion forward that the staff recommends.
Okay, so you're moving that motion and that seconded by Councillor Dietrich. Some discussion, Councillor Past Warden Ginn.
I think we need to help out our volunteers in the county. Most of the good things that actually happen in the county are done by volunteers as opposed to elected officials. This organization has been around for a long time and has been successful in fundraising, and the difference in price between whether we help them or whether we don't, I think is a disservice if we do not help them out. So I won't be supporting the motion. I think it's important that we show our volunteers that we will give them support when it makes sense for us. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Councillor Vanstone.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. And I echo Mr. Ginn's comments. This is a really good group of people, and they've done a lot of hard work, and it's quite an asset to our community. I appreciate the report, and I understand that any committee can go broke, and then we wouldn't be able to collect the money. But I think we should proceed in good faith with these people. If we can't do this, if this motion fails, I would like to at least see if we could find some place to give them a grant of, even if it's only like the $26,000 that the interest would be on it or something like that, because it is a good group, and I'd like to support them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Councillor Besnet.
Through you, Mr. Warden, I would, excuse me, concur with Councillor Past Warden Ginn and Councillor Vanstone. The other part of this is, and I realize, you know, when you fundraise, you have goals and expectations to get there. But what concerns me is this particular bridge could be closed down for not only this spring and summer, but next spring and summer. And I did like the idea that Past Warden Ginn presented to County Council at our last meeting in regards to a loan. It might be unusual, but and I know there's been history of a loan being passed on before and not being paid back, but I would hope that the volunteers of this association and all the hard work that they do would understand, and I think they would understand the importance of paying the county back. So I am also not in support of the motion.
All right. Councillor Dietrich, please.
Thank you. I guess I look at it at a little bit of a different way. To me, this is a grant because that's what's going to happen. It's going to be a grant. And I don't think the county's giving out grants anymore. I think that's gone. So I guess I'm in favor of this motion. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Noel.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I just have a question for clarification, if I could, please. In the recommended motion, it is that we not provide a loan for $300,000. I didn't think that the original motion had an amount associated with it. I thought that the Bridge Association said that there was $300,000 required, and our motion was to come back with a discussion about a loan, but I didn't think there was an amount. So I just am questioning, is this an actual request for that amount from the Bridge Association, or was that just something that because they said that was the amount that they need globally, that was the amount put into the report?
And I'm going to defer that question to our treasurer, Michael Blumhagen.
Yeah, thank you, Warden Heifer. And yes, it's the latter. It was an assumption made on my part that was their need. And therefore that was the amount that I included in the report. It wasn't their request. It was just my assumption based on the ask of council.
And CAO work would like to follow up on that as well.
Yeah, and just further point of clarification, there was actually no ask associated with the delegation that came in front of us from the group. So, we really were making assumptions based on the conversation that happened at the council table.
All right, past Warden McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I certainly did like the idea of the loan, and just from a history standpoint, yes, there was another project in the past where the county had lent some money. Unfortunately, we found out well after the fact that we actually got duped as a county council by the person that was doing the presentation. And it was unfortunate that we hadn't done our due diligence before we entered into that agreement. So I wouldn't hold that one against the idea of something like this going forward. I still contend the fact that the province lends us money at usually a better rate than we can get it ourselves when there's a necessity for us, or we see a necessity to go ahead and do things. And I thought it made so much sense with the fact that it was technically going to be half the cost to do the whole project at once than it would have been to do it a second time around. I'd be willing to take the gamble on the loan and hope that it kind of changes the tone in the future going forward. I still like the idea of doing something like that rather than grant programs. It does show us more as a partner rather than just a donator to a project. So I'd be happy to go along with the motion of opposing the motion that was presented by staff.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Past Warden McNeil.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Warden. I guess the perspective that I have on this is the fact that the value of the project is not in question. We all understand how many people utilize it. I do think, though, we're all sitting at this table representing Huron County Council and the corporation of the County of Huron. And what is due diligence for the corporation? And I have challenges with the report as it's laid out. I agree with the report, and I have challenges expending this amount of money with the budget restraints that we have in front of us. I don't believe this is part of the budget at this point in time, and it will just add extra stress. And I'm challenged to go against this report. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Councillor Finch.
Yeah, thank you. Through the warden. I'm in favor of what the staff have brought back to not approve the $300,000 for this. There's a public lens on this. We have to be very mindful. One of our last meetings, we said no to providing $50,000 for generators at our paramedic bases. To me, that's definitely a need. We can't do that. There's other things that were put in the parking lot as we discussed in the budget. I think we need to stay in our lane. If we do this for the Manitousong Bridge, then we've opened up a request for a lot of other across the county. This isn't just the one project. I can see people coming to us and saying, oh, you do give out grants or you do give out loans. We want the loan also. Similar was just given or proposed to be given by some members of this council. It's a slippery slope, and I would suggest we support the motion in front of us and not approve it. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Klopp.
Thank you. Listening to the comments. One thing, if I recall, Wingham had a bridge at the time that CN offered it. I'd like to know, I believe a group took that bridge, or did the municipality of Wingham take that CN bridge? Because it was not as big as this one by any means, but it's being used, I think it was being used. I'd like a bit of history on it, because to a point, if there's a group over there, then maybe we'll have a group come forward, which is fine. But I'd like to know the history of that bridge at this point, if anybody knows that. That's my first question. And then my other question, is based maybe on this. Back when this was approached to us, we have to remember that there was actually another ask, and that was regards to the slope on the, I'm going to call it on the north side. It said the trail is going to fall into the river. And there was an estimated cost there to engineering. I'm going to say it was $200,000 or $300,000. Council turned down the request, said, you know, maybe go out and fundraise, but we're not in. We said no. Then never heard anything about it. When this particular first ask came, was it 2 years ago, maybe, about the main pillars that they just told us they got grants. I believe we said no to that grant, but the question was asked. You're looking at the bridge, but we recall from a previous council that you came and said this whole issue of the trail falling down on the north side. And I believe the discussion came to, well, that report, the engineer said it's going to be fine for a while. We don't have to do anything. So I guess I'd like to know where that is, because it'd be quite a thing if we're spending money and then the other side is falling off and it's a bridge. Well, you're open, you see where I'm going here. I don't wish anybody harm, but I do have at this time, I'm leaning till I hear some of those answers to be voting. I agree with the staff report that it's I got to know those answers to feel more comfortable.
Okay, to answer your question, I think we can address the first question. Councillor Heffer?
Yes, thank you, Warden. Yes, it's a North Huron asset, and we have work to do on it, and it's going to be done over time.
Follow up?
So thank you. So that is a municipal issue and you're dealing with it. Okay.
And I can't even pretend I can stab an answer for your second question.
And I'm not saying you do. I think that needs to be answered and asked again, though. So for me, anyway.
All right. Any further? Past Warden again.
I'm going to say respectfully, I'm a little disappointed with this report, that it just simply no. We don't know what the exact ask would be from this organization. We haven't any information from economic development about the potential economic benefits or loss of such action. So I know we have a motion on the floor. My preference would be to send this back to staff for further information. I think it's important, particularly the value of the GGG trail and what closing the bridge at Goderich, what kind of impact that might have, because I think it could be significant. I continue to remember a report that came not from county, but about a trail in in Quebec, and a trail similar to the G2G, and it was information from the G2G at the time. And the economic impact was huge. And, tens of millions of dollars. And I think I would like to have some more information before I make my decision on this. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Klopp, we're getting close to wrapping things up here.
Thank you. And interesting comments. I believe the Minnesota organization figured out what they needed to fix first. And that's what they got the money. The county respectfully does know the economic benefits. I get it. I was around actually when this whole project started, if you remember the years. So I don't need the economic development to tell us all what we already know. That is the conundrum that one has when that I'm sitting here with. The reality of it is we asked for a report. Council came back, or the staff did come back, because the motion said, look at a loan up to 300,000. So this is the report. As I said, my issues are, as I've stated, and I'd like to know a little bit more, maybe what they ask. I propose that this be tabled until we find out some more questions. I'd live with that because I do see all sides of this, but there's been I can't just support this at this moment.
Our clerk is going to explain where we're at with some of the discussion that's going on.
Okay, so if council chooses, they can make a motion to table, even though we have a motion that's on the floor. And it is a motion to table. Generally, when you table something, you get a mover, a seconder, and you vote on that motion and it's approved. Discussion stops. No further talk on this. Generally, it's tabled pending something. So I'm just explaining what your process is at this time, if anyone is interested in pursuing any of that. If you don't table, you just proceed with this motion. If you're interested in doing a secondary motion, depending on like how this lands. Any questions?
I would move the motion that we table this pending further information on the exact request that would come from the Trail Association and economic impact that it may have on tourism in Huron County over the 2 seasons that would be closed.
So just for clarification, there was no request by the delegation. They came as purely as information for council as to where they were at. They made no request. So I'm not sure how you would like to ask for information on a request that wasn't actually made.
So my suggestion would be that we contact the organization and say, if we were to support you with a loan so that the project could be done in 1 year, what would you require?
And our CAO, Megan, would like to make a comment now.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden, respectfully to County Council, I believe that this is a political decision, that fundamentally, I don't think that there is any report that can come back to you that's going to answer all of the questions that County Council may or may not have. So this is not a good use of staff time. If it is a political decision, fundamentally, absolutely. If this is tabled and we get a seconder, we will bring back a staff report. But my caution to you is that I fundamentally believe that this is a political decision. And I caution council about asking us to spend a ton more time on this because fundamentally, I don't think that there's any amount of information that's going to satisfy people at the table when it's a political issue being brought forward. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Megan. Just letting Susan scribe something out here. Just give her the time she needs to do that. Councillor Dietrich.
Thank you. If this motion is passed the way it is now, and then they have the opportunity to come back and ask for the money, correct? They can make a request for whatever amount of money they want. Is that not a possibility? Thank you.
That is a possibility, yes. Councillor Finch.
Yes, thank you. I agree. We have to be very careful here. I agree with our CAO. Staff's time is very valuable, so are tax dollars. And unless it's being shared across the county, this is opening up a can of worms, quite honestly. So I think we need to follow what the recommendation is before us. It's a wise recommendation that staff's put together, well thought out. We have information. They're not asking for money, but there's nothing stopping them from coming back and asking for a letter of support at a higher level. And I think that's where this conversation should go, rather than potentially the county getting involved in providing money. Because if we put money towards this, we're tied into it regardless, because it's going to need more maintenance down the road. And the loan, if the loan was approved, well, we already got so much money tied into it already, it all of a sudden becomes a county asset. This is not where we want to go. The recommendation before us is the one we need to approve. My thoughts. Thank you.
Okay. we've a bit of confusion here. We're going to straighten it out and move forward. And Clerk Susan is going to walk us through that with a motion that's potentially on the table here.
Such faith. Okay, Councillor Ginn, I'm proposing a motion that you made. I'm proposing this as a motion, that the motion that we have on the floor be tabled pending a staff report on the Minnesota Bridge Association financial support requirement and the economic development benefit to Huron County of this bridge.
So past Warren, and does that capture what you were looking for?
I'm going to withdraw my motion. I'm going to put forward another motion to defer until the Bridge Association can come back to County Council with a request on the basis of what they would need to complete the project in 1 year.
So with deferrals, we can still have a discussion. The discussion carries, and we've only had a suggestion. So as you carry on for the discussion, I'm actually going to attempt to draft that motion. Okay?
Councillor Basnet.
I would gladly second that motion if that's what we're looking for.
Councillor Ginn, are you requesting specifics in this motion, or are you okay with just deferring pending another presentation by the Minnesota Bridge Association?
I'm fine with that, yes.
Okay.
Could you read the motion again,
Yep,
please?
just a moment.
Thank you.
Okay, so the original motion is in the agenda, and I'm not going to read that. Okay, we have that moved and seconded. Okay. The deferral motion comes ahead of that, so we don't deal with this because we're having a motion to defer. So the motion would be that we're going to consider, it's moved by Councillor Ginn, seconded by Councillor Bazinet, that the motion that's in the agenda be deferred pending a presentation by the Minnesota Bridge Association. Another, sorry, presentation.
So that is the motion that we're addressing right now. Past Warden McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'm fine with that motion because we've now left it in their ballpark that if they actually want some assistance from County Council, they can come back, they can do a presentation, and we have the opportunity to have a discussion with them at that time. If they choose not to do it, then that's their decision.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. Those in favor of the motion of deferral? That motion carries. All right. Past Warden McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I did read through this report, and although it was listed as 3 separate options, there's certainly potential for more than those 3 options here because you could a la carte from any of those different groups and come up with what you want. I'm going to suggest that it's probably not worth a lot of discussion at this point to go into individual things because I think sticking to the 5% that staff had got the budget down to certainly makes sense. We've done some cropping from the budget that we had not done in the past to bring the numbers down. We've cut some smaller services out with good discussion of council. When you look at the levy stabilization reserve, if you start to take those monies out, that could just make for a big adjustment up in the future, which I have concerns about. So I don't like pulling any of those. I certainly wasn't in favor at the time when it was a $20 million budget for building the new project in Goderich. But now that that project is there, I do not want to have us pull any funding back from that, because we've got it there now. We need to see if we can actually make a good run of it. The water source protection, that is something that a lot of members around the table here have fought for year after year, and have said that this is a very vital service that the county provides. It's got good return on investment, and other counties are even looking to Huron County because they believe it's such a good project. And if we're going to grant money to a project, I think it looks pretty bad if we decide we're going to lay staff off in option number 3, yet we're still giving out a grant for one thing or another. So when you take all of those different options into effect and put them all together, I think sticking with the 5%, which is a far cry from where we started at 8.39, I'm content with the 5% overall. And I'm hoping that County Council will see that that's probably the proper move going forward at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Past Warden McNeil.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden, and I concur with that. I think the 5% is a responsible thing to do, and I would support that. Thank you, and thank you for the staff report on this.
Any other comments? Councillor McClellan.
Thank you very much. No, I agree with the 5%. The only thing that worries me is with how much money we're putting into the capital levy. We're only at 1.3% this year and 1.38 last year. It looks like we should be around 2 or 2.5. So just worried that this is going to catch up to us fast. So I just don't want that to be overlooked. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Warden. Really like this report. That's the way I like to see it, is just bring it down. What's it look like if we go to that level? And, you know, I don't disagree with anyone that's spoken previously. I think we're pretty close to it. When I see what it takes to get down to 3, I don't think I want to go there. So I like the layout of that. And I think it makes our decision at County Council a lot easier. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Dietrich.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm in favor of the 5% also. I guess I have one other question though. If we go through with this $300,000 loan or whatever it is for this bridge, that's 0.57% increase. Is that going to be added into this budget, or where is that coming from?
Megan would like to address that.
Yeah, I would anticipate that we would be pulling it from reserves. So it wouldn't necessarily have an impact on the levy, but it would have an impact on your overall reserves.
Okay. All right. Lots of discussion. Where are we landing on this motion?
Mr. Warden, I would be prepared to make a motion that we approve a 5% levy increase.
So the motion, the agenda would address that and allow staff to bring back a budget with that final approval. Councillor Harding, would you second that?
Right answer here. So this 5% levy is going to turn into a 3.41% tax increase?
Through yourself, Warden, approximately 3.4, whatever I had listed in there, yes. We had assessment growth last year, so that helps to shift some of the burden from the existing ratepayers. So with that, the tax rate would be lower, about 1.5% lower approximately than the actual levy increase.
I'll second it now.
All right. Thank you for that. So I'm going to ask those in favor. And that is carried. So item 4 is support for appointment to Western Ontario Wardens Caucus Economic Development Subcommittee, and Susan is available for questions on this report. Councillor Dietrich.
Thank you. Question. Did we have 2 members this past term? I just wondered, like, do we need 2 members on this committee? Just a question. I don't know where it's going. Maybe I could get someone to answer that question for me.
I see Megan has her hand at the mic ready.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden. In the past, we have had 1 elected official at the table, and that was past Warden Ginn. He was chair of the committee.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Councillor Vanstone.
Maybe because I'm new here, you could explain the advantage of having 2 instead of 1.
Oh,
I would be happy to turn that over to the 2 members that have requested to be put on the board. Okay.
and I think that's a fair misdirect. It's whichever. Past Warden Ginn, you've been on that for a period of time. Can you just enlighten us on that?
Yeah, and I think it's a fair question, but you know, I was chair of the organization coming up to this at the meeting before the Western Wardens general meeting. Everyone on the committee has asked if they'd like to put their name forward again. I indicated that I would, and several of the other ones on the committee did as well. There aren't a lot of actual wardens that sit on the committee. I think most are past wardens. And it's just basically a volunteer thing. If you would like to remain on the committee, you put your name forward. I think there's benefit in the knowledge that you can bring back. But, you know, it's council decision whether you need to or not. Thank you.
Okay. Past Warden McNeil.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Warden. This is for the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, and it encompasses all of Western Ontario, and the county that each representative comes from is immaterial to the benefit for Western Ontario. That is the impetus of the Economic Development Committee. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Klopp.
Yeah, thank you. I struggle with this. At the same time, I look at it, I've been lucky enough to be on boards, and I even know as part of a board, and we always had lots of money. We were a telephone company, but our board of directors made it pretty clear when some of us got to be chair, because I think it was the chair's position to start, taking the lead a little bit, because we were a small group. But I look at that, and we made a decision that one person go represent us, and that saves some money. Before, we used to all go, or 5 go, and all good things. But at the same time, it is people's money, and it's not about the personalities. It's not that at all. That would be easy. I'd vote, let's have 2 on. But I think the argument in this day and age, one representative can carry the flag quite well, and there is a slight cost, as pointed out, and so with all due respect, I think that's how I look at it. It's straight business. I won't be supporting the motion to have 2 representatives.
All right, thank you for those comments. Councillor Dietrich.
Sorry, but thank you. I guess I would like to see the 1 member, but I don't know how we would go about deciding that 1 member moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, well, we moved by motions, so I would recommend a motion to give direction here. Past Warden McClellan.
My first assumption, since Past Warden Ginn was also the chair, to ask that he be appointed to the board. But in fairness, I don't know if our warden himself ever sat on this committee also. So can I get some clarification on that, please?
No, I did not put my name forward for this committee.
Sorry, Past Warden McNeil.
Okay, Past Warden McNeil.
So if I understand the question correctly, I was asked to put my name forward for this, and it was moved by Warden Charbonneau from Bruce County and seconded by Warden Heffer from Huron. I was asked to put my name forward.
Okay.
Is that your question?
Yeah, I apologize for not being clear. I just wanted to know if you had actually sat on this committee prior to this time.
No, as chair of the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, no, that was busy enough. And so I was not part of this committee as chair, and I was asked to be part of this committee as past chair.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. Having heard that, Mr. Warden, I'd still like to move that Past Warden Ginn be the representative since he's been on the committee before and has chaired the committee. I think continuity helps play a big role.
So I'll take that as a motion then. Would there be a seconder for that motion? So seconded by Councillor Anderson. All right, any further discussion? Then I will call the question. Those in favor of Councillor Ginn being our representative? And that is carried. All right, thank you. Thank you both for your interest in representing Huron County at that role. And I'm going to move on in our agenda to the strategic priorities chart. And Megan is available for questions if there's any questions arise from that. Councillor Noel?
I'm sorry, Mr. Warden.
I thought your hand was going like that.
Oh, no, sorry.
My apologies. I thought you were getting my attention. Spiders. Okay. All right. No questions. So then I'd be looking for a motion to receive Megan's report here. Councillor Heffer, seconded by Councillor Becker. Those in favor? And that is carried. Under correspondence, is there any specific item anybody wants to draw attention to? And if not, then I'd be looking for a motion to receive correspondence. And that's Councillor Basnet, seconded by Past Warden Ginn. Those in favor? And that is carried. There is some new and unfinished business to address. And the first is the multi-sector accountability agreement extension. And Jeff Horseman is here for questions if there's any regarding that. And if not, then I'd be looking for a motion to proceed with this agreement. So that would be Past Warden McClellan and Councillor Finch would second that. Those in favor? And that is carried. And the notice and extension of long-term care home service agreement. And Dana is here for any questions on that. And if there is no questions, I'd be looking for a motion to proceed with this agreement. Councillor Vanstone, Councillor Heffer would second that. Those in favor? That is carried. Is there any notice of motion? Seeing none, we have two bylaws that would need first, second, and third reading if there was someone willing to put forward to adopt these bylaws. That's Councillor Finch, seconded by Councillor Heffer. Those in favor? That is carried. We do not have a close to the public session. And a list there of our upcoming meetings. Make yourself aware of what those are and what your duties and responsibilities are in regard to those. And we're at a place where I'd be looking for someone to confirm our actions for the morning. Councillor Harding, seconded by Past Warden McClellan. Those in favor? And that is carried. And adjournment. Councillor Dietrich and Councillor Heffer would second that. Those in favor of adjourning. We are adjourned. Thank you for your discussion and your input for this morning's meeting.